Well, certainly we can, memetics pretty much at this stage, or maybe in and of itself, kind of has to depend on technology to proceed in the rapid fashion that it has. And it is interesting to kind of consider, I guess, the tools of the trade with the memetics and how people have implemented various devices throughout time to help them, I guess, maximize their ability to either manipulate energy in a magical sense or to work to express ideas in a mass fashion. And I think that's kind of where marketing and magic meet and intertwine, and we find common ground between the two.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far away from the Tesla and Marconi thing, too,
okay.
because I think that's a big... Okay, with Tesla and Marconi, I think the issue is kind of, as everybody's working towards a specific breakthrough, once that breakthrough has happened, it becomes easier and easier for more energy to pass through that area that's been defined. And so memetics kind of analyzes how thoughts come to being and then how they replicate in the best, most effective way, which brings us to marketing, because marketing is the study of the most effective communication method. It's not like advertising is sort of a subset of marketing, but marketing is really figuring out what your message is, getting it across to people who want to hear that message. So it's a two-step process. And when you're studying memetics and you're studying effective communication, marketing just sort of becomes one of the essential tools in any sort of memetic campaign.
And so optimizing your ability to, again, replicate or communicate, marketing certainly has, we see the evolution of that through time, no question. Let's see, I kind of lost my train of thought there with that. The marketing and the, I guess the tool, the timing, that's another thing I wanted to get into as well. It seems as if some of these memes kind of, it's kind of like some of the biblical analogy of the seed scattering, and some's going to take root and some's not. And it does seem to be perhaps a matter of cyclic unfolding or timing regarding memes playing out and actually taking root and becoming, viral, or at least, more mass consciously recognized.
Yeah, actually, that's funny. It's Matthew chapter 13, I think, is the parable of the sower, and I just recently reread it because it really does sort of explain. It explains memetics very ornately in two different ways, both in what the story that he's telling, but also when he talks to the disciples and explains the story, he's like, most of the people that heard my story aren't even going to know what I'm talking about. So I didn't bother fleshing that out. With memetics, with a meme dispersal, let's say, a good example was in the 1990s, in the early 1990s, there was a bunch of people who were working around smart drugs. They wanted to create sort of enhancing drugs, it was sort of like herbs, but they didn't know how to market it until somebody came up with the term smart drugs. All through the 80s, drugs were disdained, they were evil, and then right at the beginning of the 90s, somebody started talking about smart drugs, and it carried all of that negative energy from the word drugs and transmuted it with smart. So when they started talking about it in the media, people paid attention because they had all of that potential energy, potential negative energy that was contained by hearing the word drugs just as a trigger, a psychological trigger. But then they were intrigued because they heard it in a completely different context. And so sometimes that's what timing is. You have to wait for a meme to most effectively take root before it can work. I don't know if they could have sold smart drugs in the 70s because, there was no differentiation. It wasn't until Nancy Reagan happened that the terminology changed in the culture.